Dr. Marcus Webb had seen everything in his 20 years as an emergency room physician in Los Angeles. Gunshot wounds, car accidents, drug overdoses. He'd saved countless lives using modern medicine and advanced technology. So when he arrived in Manila for a medical conference and heard about Hilot, traditional Filipino healing, he couldn't hide his contempt. "This is exactly what's wrong with healthcare in developing countries," Marcus announced loudly at the conference welcome dinner, his American accent cutting through the room. He was speaking to Dr. Elena Reyes, a Filipino physician who had mentioned the integration of traditional practices in rural clinics. "You're telling me people here actually believe that rubbing coconut oil and pressing on muscles can heal injuries? That's not medicine. That's dangerous quackery that prevents people from getting real treatment." Elema's face remained calm despite the insult. "Dr. Webb, Hilot has been practiced for centuries. The Manghili Hilot undergo years of training in anatomy through touch, understanding muscle, bone, and..." "Through touch," Marcus laughed, drawing attention from other conference attendees. "I spent 4 years in medical school, 3 years in residency, and another 5 specializing in emergency medicine. And you're comparing that to someone who learned by rubbing people's backs? If someone comes to a Hilot with a serious injury instead of a real hospital, they could die. This isn't cultural appreciation. This is medical negligence." An older Filipino woman in traditional dress had been standing nearby, listening quietly. She was Lola Maria, a master Manghili Hilot with 40 years of experience, invited to the conference to present on integrative medicine. She approached Marcus with steady eyes. "Dr. Webb, perhaps you would allow me to demonstrate. You seem to carry tension in your right shoulder and lower back. Old injury, yes? Maybe 10 years ago." Marcus instinctively touched his right shoulder, surprised. He'd torn his rotator cuff in a skiing accident 12 years ago. It still bothered him, especially after long surgeries. A lucky guess. And no, I don't need a massage. I need evidence-based medicine. "As you wish," Lola Maria said softly, walking away. The next morning, disaster struck. A 7.2 magnitude earthquake hit Manila at 6:47 a.m. Marcus was in his hotel room on the 15th floor when the world started shaking violently. The building swayed, glass shattered, and he was thrown against the wall. Then, the floor collapsed. When Marcus regained consciousness, he was trapped in a pocket of space created by a fallen concrete beam. His legs were pinned under rubble. His right arm was definitely broken, and he could feel at least 3 cracked ribs. Blood dripped from a gash on his forehead. He could hear screams and car alarms in the distance, the groan of unstable structures. "Help!" he shouted, his voice raw. "I'm trapped! I'm a doctor! I need medical assistance!" Hours passed. The day grew hot. Marcus could feel his broken arm swelling, the pain becoming unbearable. Worse, he was beginning to recognize the signs of compartment syndrome in his trapped legs. The pressure was cutting off blood flow. Without intervention within hours, he could lose both legs or die from the toxins released when circulation returned. As a physician, he knew exactly how dire his situation was, and he was helpless. It was nearly dusk when he heard movement in the rubble above him. "Hello? Someone is here?" a woman's voice called in accented English. "Yes, down here. I'm trapped. I need immediate medical evacuation. I have multiple fractures, possible compartment syndrome. I need a surgical team." "I am coming to you. Stay calm." Through a gap in the rubble, he saw her, Lola Maria, covered in dust, her traditional dress torn, but moving with surprising agility through the collapsed structure. She squeezed through spaces that seemed impossible, finally reaching the pocket where Marcus was trapped. Marcus gasped, "you need to get real help. I need surgeons. I need..." "The hospital collapsed," Lola Maria said quietly. assessing his situation with her hands, touching his arm, his ribs, checking his trapped legs. Most doctors are injured or helping at emergency sites. Rescue teams are overwhelmed. It will be many hours, maybe tomorrow, before they reach this area. Then I'm dead, Marcus said, the reality hitting him. Without surgery, the pressure on my legs will cause permanent damage. When they free me, the toxin release could cause cardiac arrest. I need immediate medical intervention. You need Hilot, Lola Maria said simply. Are you insane? I need real medicine, not... You need to trust me, Dr. Webb, or you can wait for rescue that may come too late. Her eyes were steady, calm, despite the chaos around them. I have delivered babies in typhoons, reset bones in remote mountains, treated wounds with what the forest provides, and right now, I am all you have. Marcus wanted to argue, but another aftershock rumbled through the rubble. Dust rained down. He was out of options. What can you even do? Lola Maria's hands moved with precision born from 40 decades of practice. She produced a small container of coconut oil from a pouch at her waist. She'd been carrying it when the earthquake hit. First, she carefully manipulated his broken arm, her fingers reading the fracture through touch alone. Displaced fracture of the radius. Clean break, she murmured. This will hurt. Her hands moved in a specific pattern Marcus didn't understand, applying pressure to points around the break. Then, with a swift motion, she set the bone. He screamed, but immediately felt the alignment correct. She bound it using strips torn from her dress and pieces of wood from the rubble. Your ribs, 3 cracked, not fully broken. I cannot fix, but I can reduce pressure. Her hands pressed along his rib cage in a sequence that seemed to release something. The crushing pressure eased slightly. He could breathe a little deeper. Your legs. This is the dangerous one, she said, touching the rubble pinning him. I cannot move the concrete, but I can help blood flow, prevent the worst damage until rescue comes. That's impossible. Without removing the pressure, you know acupressure points, meridians. Western medicine ignores, but the body has pathways. Her hands found points on his trapped legs that he could barely feel. Yet when she pressed them in specific sequences, he felt warmth, tingling, blood flow. For the next 6 hours, as night fell and rescue workers slowly approached, Lola Maria worked. She maintained pressure points in careful rotation, keeping circulation moving in his trapped legs. She used coconut oil and specific massage techniques on accessible areas to prevent muscle death. She monitored his vital signs through pulse points, adjusting her treatment constantly. Marcus, trained in modern medicine, watched in disbelief as techniques he'd called quackery literally kept him alive. When she pressed certain points, his pain reduced without drugs. When she manipulated muscles in specific ways, blood flow improved measurably. He could feel the difference. How are you doing this? He whispered at one point. 4,000 years of knowledge, Lola Maria said, her hands never stopping their work. Passed down, refined, tested on millions of people across centuries. You have machines and drugs. We have understanding of the body's own healing systems. Both are medicine, Dr. Webb. Both save lives. When rescue teams finally reached them at 2 a.m., the emergency medic's first words after assessing Marcus were, I don't understand. With this kind of compression injury and time elapsed, you should be in shock, possibly organ failure. Your vitals are surprisingly stable. What happened? Marcus looked at Lola Maria, exhausted but still maintaining pressure on his leg meridians. He said, I had the best doctor available. At the hospital, one of the few still functioning, surgeons successfully freed Marcus's legs and repaired his arm. The head surgeon called it miraculous.
With that degree of compression and that time span, we typically see massive tissue death, toxic shock when pressure releases, often requiring amputation. Your tissue damage is minimal. Someone did something extraordinary to maintain your circulation during those hours. Without that intervention, Dr. Webb, you'd have lost both legs at minimum. More likely, you wouldn't have survived the rescue. 2 weeks later, Marcus walked with a slight limp and a wooden cane into a small traditional healing clinic in a Manila neighborhood. The walls displayed diagrams of healing herbs and pressure points. Lola Maria was there, treating a patient. She looked up, surprised. "Lola Maria," Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion, "I came to apologize, not just for dismissing Hilot, but for my arrogance, my ignorance, my disrespect of your knowledge and your culture. You saved my life with techniques I called quackery. You spent 6 hours keeping me alive when you could have left me to wait for real doctors. You proved that healing comes in many forms and that centuries of traditional knowledge deserves the same respect as my medical degree." Lola Maria smiled gently, extending her hand. "You learned, Dr. Webb. That is what matters. The body taught you what words could not." 6 months later, Marcus stood before another medical conference in Manila, but this time he was introducing a revolutionary integrative medicine program. Lola Maria sat beside him as an equal partner. "Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to my colleague, Lola Maria, a master Mungi Hilot. 6 months ago, I publicly called her practice dangerous quackery. Then an earthquake trapped me with life-threatening injuries, and her quackery saved my life when modern medicine wasn't available. Today, we're launching the first certified integrative program combining emergency medicine with traditional Hilot techniques." The program documented over 200 cases where traditional Hilot techniques improved patient outcomes in emergency situations, post-surgical recovery, and chronic pain management. Western doctors learned pressure point techniques from Mungi Hilot practitioners. Traditional healers studied anatomy on modern displays. Both groups worked together on hybrid treatment protocols. One evening, Marcus and Lola Maria sat together in the Institute's garden, watching students leave the building, talking animatedly about their training. Marcus's cane rested against the bench, a permanent reminder of the earthquake. "Do you think it will last, this integration, or will another arrogant doctor come along and dismiss it all?" Lola Maria smiled peacefully. "There will always be skeptics, Dr. Webb, but now there is also proof, documentation, lives saved. You cannot argue with results, and more importantly, you cannot argue with respect. That is what you have taught, not just medicine, but respect."